So basically, we've just got to ask you what you'd do with £3,000, like if we won.
What would we do with £3,000? Yeah. Basically we're trying to encourage more use of the woodland by educational groups and schools and colleges. The money would be used to provide resources that we could then loan out to schools and colleges, because obviously schools and things are all sort of financially constrained, I should say. We also do a lot of work with the local nursery as well, so the money would be used to develop sites that the nursery can use each week, basically. So we've got a local nursery that come up to the wood twice a week at the moment. They'd like to use the site more. Perhaps we could build a shelter or something, something that the guys could use.
Okay, good.
So whatever funding we get immediately goes back into into the work that we do and helps support the work that we do. So that may be in the form of a resource kit the schools can come and use. It may be in the form of as I said, a shelter or whatever. Yeah. So whatever money we get goes back into the community.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see.
So yeah, because we'd probably be best to speak to Adrian about the history of the...
Yeah, because Adrian Clark, he's not the chair anymore, but he's obviously he was the driver behind the purchase of the wood, and he was the one that really formed the board and sort of gave them direction as to where they could apply for funding to buy the wood. My role there is now to take forward the 5-year management plan that the wood has got. So there's specific elements of the management plan that I deal with, and that is basically recreation, education and community engagement. So those three things are my sort of my remit. It's quite broad because I do things like mountain bike coaching. With, like today, for instance, that's why I'm covered it like this. We've been tree planting with Dingwall Academy. We work with the nursery groups, and also, I'm responsible for things like signage, making sure that we get the appropriate signage put in place, getting the tenders out for that. So it's quite a diverse role, but it's those three things: recreation, education, and community. They're my sort of areas of work.
Well, there is quite a few good bike paths in the woods.
Yeah, and the beauty of there's plenty more to do as well. So
yeah, there's quite a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that this is the first year of a 5-year project, so it's small, small steps at the moment. We're in the process at the moment of having a wood cabbing put in, so we're going to be, again, some of the funding could go toward maybe putting in a log burner or something into the log cabin that we're going to put in, and then that way it makes the cabin a usable space for the likes of the nursery and younger groups that perhaps need a bit more shelter and perhaps a bit of warmth whilst they're out in the wood.
Like, basically, if you get that log cabin up and running, that would be really useful for everyone else.
Oh, most definitely. Well, the plan was, it's so grown really, excuse my voice because I'm just recovering from flu. The plan was to have a safe, secure storage unit, because we have obviously tools, etc., that we need to, at the moment, just be installed in people's garages, which is not very good. We managed to get some funding to buy a metal site office, one of these. Basically it's a metal box that's got windows, but it's insulated, and if we could plug it in, it's got electricity, it's all wired up. So we've got one of those in, but putting in a big blue steel box in the middle of the wood is doesn't look very good, and would probably raise a few eyebrows. So we planned then to sort of clad it with timber that we would mill ourselves.
Yeah.
And now it's grown into, the nursery came on board and said, well, we'd like to use that, So it's gone from having a metal box that would just have wooden cladding on the outside, which would effectively make it look like a shed. We've put planning permission in now to have a proper pitched roof and an outside covered space that we can have a log seating circle. So it's a lot more multi-use now than it initially was, whereas it was going to be just a storage unit. It's now going to be a multi-purpose area, space that the community and school groups and things can use.
So the money would cover a lot of aspects.
That money, I tell you what, if we could get £3,000 would help us. We've got quite a lot of partners on board. Forestry Commission as well are helping out with transporting some timber for us, but you know, in these hard times, any extra funding that we could access would be fantastic, because it would just make the space a lot more usable for, you know, the local community, really, and that's in all its forms, you know.
Yeah. Well, if we win this one, and give you the £3,000, we could take it to the final, and if we win that, we get 10,000.
Oh my
50
word!
years.
Well, let's do a good one then.
Yeah.
£10,000. We're all going to go to school holiday somewhere. I'm joking. Yeah. So you know, that would be fantastic. You know. So let's do this right.
Is there any things you'd like us to put in our presentation?
I think to highlight the multifaceted approach of the community of the woodland, and by that I mean the various aspects of its work. Now that could range from the fact, like the educational side. So we work with a number of schools every week, and being, you know, wee ones up to, you know, bigger ones. There's also we also work with groups that are sort of marginalised. So we work with people with mental health issues. We get them out and about. We try and support their health and well-being in that respect. So that's you know, something that obviously needs to be highlighted. We do a lot of conservation management work. So once the last weekend of each month they have a volunteer day, which you know, perhaps come along, do a bit of filming for that. That would be good, just because then that's the community getting involved in the practical management of the site. So there's that side of it. There's again work from the school and looking at the resources that we're producing. So we've been working with a number of schools to develop an education pack, so that so the schools can come and basically be self-led, you know, in that they don't need to call upon someone from the community woodland to help them, you know, go around the site or do whatever they want to do. They can do it themselves. To do that, rather than us write a supporting resource, we got the schools to all pitch in and all help. So they basically helped write a resource guide that is usable, you know, because there's umpteen examples of people doing education packs that they provide to schools, and then schools pick them and then put them on the shelf, never to be seen or used again. Whereas this one is something that the schools have helped develop, so hopefully it'll be something that they'll use.
Yeah.
So there's that side of it. There's also, let me just think, where else could we go? You know, there's the recreation side as well. We've just worked with INVOC, the Inverness Orienteering Club, to put in a permanent orienteering trail for the community.
But was that not
ripped up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was ripped up, but we've had such good press about the negative aspect of that I think everybody's aware, and you know, hopefully now, you know, there's lots of people using the wood. They'll keep their eyes open, and also I've just been replacing a lot of these posts. They're 3 times as deep, putting in concrete. So if someone goes and pinches them now, then fair play. That's you know, yeah. So hopefully there's that side of it. There's the biking side of it, and there's also the links with, you know, the youth groups in Alness that we're working with. Jen, who's based here, you know, and Lynn, you know, Lynn Fraser. Is it Lynn Fraser? She's up in Will McKell's old office up there. She's the new active school person, so there's that link as well. And also just coming out, just picking a time, if you want to come and do some filming and just engaging with the people that use the wood, you know, because today I was parked up there, 15 people passed me. Some of them were riding, some of them were walking, some of them were out with the dog, and just, you know, come up with a few questions and ask them.
Couple interviews or something.
Exactly.
We were going to do a video, but like there wasn't enough time to like get a decent
So
video.
we're going to put like it, kind of mash little bits together, so like maybe some photos, some videos, and just a few clips and that, and into a presentation.
Fantastic, yeah. We also work with TCV, Trust for Conservation Volunteers. They come out twice a month. I don't think you'll be able to film this, but I work with social service referral guys. They're older than sort of, you know, guys out of school, perhaps been in a bit of trouble. I don't think you'll be able to film that, because I think there's a lot of issues there, but, you know, anyway. So there's quite a few, you know, aspects of what we do, and also at the end, good thing if you want to take some pictures. What's the time frame in this? When do you have to finish this by?
2 weeks. So
you have to get it done in 2 weeks. That's such a shame, because the end of this month we've got a forestry day on the 29th and 30th. So we've got horse logging, and it's very rare that you see horse logging now. It's a traditional technique of pulling wood out of pulling logs out of a wood. It's such a shame you have to have it in by the 29th. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, around that time anyway. Well, it's that week, 22.
Yeah, it's such a shame because there have been some cracking pictures. We've also got a wood carver up as well. So
that's
anyway,
been quite good. Like if we win this one, and we take it to the finals, we will be able to like upgrade everything. So we will be able to do stuff like that.
come along. We'll take loads of pictures anyway,
Yeah.
so you'll have a bank of pictures that you can access. Anyway, so surveying, we've had the woods, the goodwill of Highland Biological Recording Group, HBRG. Basically, it's a group of experts, and they've throughout this year they've been coming and under their own steam and their own time and doing their various surveys. And some have been spiders, some have been butterflies, some have been bryophytes, some have been amphibians, that sort of thing. And basically what they've been doing over the year is compiling a really detailed record of the species types that we have in the wood, which is fantastic for future management, because if we know that we've got loads of newts in one area, then we can manage accordingly.
It says here to like basically tell us what the charity is about. So everything that you've said, it will just
Well, basically, the main aim of the charity, and bearing in mind that Adrian's probably a better person to speak to regarding when they went initially for the funding, what they promoted the charity as, but effectively they needed to buy the wood to make sure that the wood is managed for sustainability for future generations, because if a private landowner had come and bought the wood and was just using it as a maybe just a fell, because there's some really fantastic specimen trees there, and from a silvicultural forestry perspective, it's quite a unique wood because there's Douglas fir there, types of trees that are really big. And you don't see that anywhere else because they usually cut down before they get to this size.
Yeah.
And also it's steeped in history. There's a forester, and he's basically called the father of forestry, called Professor Schlick. And he came to Evington and basically set up the first management regime on the site. Many, this is sort of late 1800s. And he's sort of credited as being the father of modern day silviculture and forestry. So from a historical perspective, it's quite important. The Scottish School of Forestry over in Inverness, they come and visit the site just because of its historical perspective on forestry. So there's some fantastically big specimen trees there.
So it's mixing the history of keeping the woods as it is, but also letting the community enjoy it with all the activities that go on.
Come sit here. Yeah, most definitely, yeah. But also I think education is really important because a lot of people see the work that goes on in the wood as perhaps to the detriment of perhaps the wildlife, or we've had comments that some people haven't seen as much deer in the wood because there's been more activity in the wood. Now, having deer come to your back garden and feeding you deer and seeing them in the morning is absolutely lovely. But what some people sometimes fail to recognise is the fact that those deer also go off into the wood and they basically strip trees, young trees, so the wood doesn't get a chance to naturally regenerate, because that's what deer do, that's what they eat, and so by limiting the amount of deer that's in the wood, there's also it has a knock-on effect in that people don't sometimes see them come into the garden anymore, but it has a real positive effect on the species types that we have in the wood because they're given a chance to grow. Some people see the fact that we're doing a bit of felling in certain areas as a negative, you're just cutting trees down, what's that doing? Well, the reason we're cutting trees down is, one, they may be diseased, they may need cutting down because they're perhaps leaning or they're whatever. And also within the area, you need to take out some of the smaller trees to allow the bigger trees to get bigger. It's a management practice, but it's an education it's the education basically that, you know, it's my job to make sure that folk recognise that what we do is all for the benefit of the wood, as opposed to just cutting trees down because we want to cut trees down and get wood out or whatever. So.
Because we had quite a tough time persuading the teachers especially, because we had to choose a charity that would help people, not like wildlife and that. But we told them how the woods acts now as activities for everyone. So I think that's helped speaking to you, because we know how it helps people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you think about the pot, for instance, as an example, the area that we're developing at the moment. It's a pond area, and basically we were able to work and get in partnership with an organisation called Frog Life. There is an organisation called Frog Life, and they basically supported us through funding and advice to develop an area that was a wetland area, which was okay. You know, it had some frogs in it, had a few newts. To develop it, to create 3 large ponds, which will, one, yes, is going to improve the biodiversity of the site, but also we develop it in an area with boardwalks. We're going to put a dipping platform so the local community can come up and use it. We're going to put seating there. We're going to have there's a picnic area there. So this whole area is getting developed. So it's not just for biodiversity, but it's not just for the community. It's both of them. You know, because one will benefit from the other. You know, a nicer area to see the wildlife will encourage more people to come to your site, which will encourage more people to have an awareness of, you know, what the environment is.
I'm actually quite surprised about how much activity goes on in the woods.
Oh, you wouldn't know you don't know the half of it. Today I was planting trees. Tomorrow, this afternoon, I'm going to speak to the planning department to plan the cabin that we're putting in for use by lots of stuff.
It's quite good, all that. You think you could tell us a little bit about all the bike paths and all that stuff? Because like some of that has been like took down. I've noticed some of that, like people destroy them.
Yeah, well, basically the cycling is almost a double-edged sword, and by that I mean that you know, you have obviously the cyclists that are keen to go in and build what they need to build.
Yeah.
Which encourages them to use the site, but also perhaps sometimes they build things in locations that conflict with other path users or other users of the wood. And again, our job is to make sure that everybody that uses the wood uses it in sort of harmony with each other. And sometimes that means that some jumps or some bomb holes or whatever that people have made on path networks need to be either filled in or taken out, because by their very nature you need to attack them at speed. I mean, if you've got someone walking around the corner with a dog or family, you know, that's going to put the heebie-jeebies up them, isn't it? So what we're trying to do is make sure that whatever footpath, whatever future developments we put in cycle-wise, they're on locations that perhaps are a bit out with the normal path network. And also, as a cyclist, that, you know, you want to make sure that, and you want to enjoy it, you know, being a cyclist myself, you don't want to be thinking in the back of your mind all the time, oh, is there going to be someone walking around this corner? I want to be on something that I know that it's very unlikely that someone is going to be using it other than another mountain biker. So a lot of the paths, and there's a number of paths, and you've been with me, you've seen some of the little link tracks that we want to build. No one's ever going to walk down there. Well, hopefully not. But bikers can use them, and that way we're managing the site so that all the different users are sort of apart from each other, you know. More often than not, it's funny because one local resident said to me, it's not the young people that use the trails on bikes. The thing that got to him was the fact that there were older adults that weren't paying attention to other users or potentially other users, because he'd come in conflict with people coming around corners too fast. He said the young people are quite aware of their responsibilities, which was, you know, quite nice to hear, really, because you always, more often than not, it's the other way around, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I think that's down to people being aware of, you know, things like the Outdoor Access Code, you know, making sure that you're a responsible user, no matter what type of use you're using the thing for. That makes sense.
So like, the resources to link up trail networks, that would come with the money as well. You could
well, if for instance you wanted to, what we could do is sit down and think, if we were successful in winning this, which would be fantastic, we would obviously look at where that money could go. Now some of that money could go to developing a number of new mountain bike link tracks to link up with the current trails that are already there. Mapping those as well, so making sure that then, you know, those trails are then transferred from the ground onto a map that people can download from the website, so they'll be able to see where they can go from cycling.
Yeah.
So try and encourage people to stay off the main path network, where, because we know really where people are creatures of habit. We know where they walk their dogs, and more often than not they just do a circle around the core paths. If we can have a mountain bike trail map showing, you know, the trails that sort of are kept off those paths, then, you know, that'll be a good thing, because it's keeping the users and potential conflict away from each other. So.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to any thoughts or ideas you would want us to use?
Well, only that, you know, we're in the same boat as any other charity really, and everything we do relies on funding, and anything like this is you know, is fantastic really, because it'll help us pursue the objectives that we have in the management plan. And the management plan solely is to, one, make sure that the community uses the wood and has access to the wood, and that could be through education or whatever, and two, that the wood is managed in such a way that it helps both biodiversity and, you know, the community as well. So any funding like this would be fantastic.
I think this has got like a pretty good chance of winning, because like it's looking out for like everyone instead of just like a certain type of stuff. It's like literally everything.
Because it's got everything going on.
Yeah, well the thing is, again, my job is, because I work with such a diverse range and age of folk, you know, it's trying to get people to, what's the word, re-engage with the natural world, you know. Forget Xboxes, chuck your phones away and just go outside, you know. It's proven that, you know, being outdoors for 5 minutes lifts your spirits, heightens your energy levels, all these things, focuses your concentration, you know, all this sort of stuff.
Pretty sure if like people knew what was going on in the woods, it'd happen.
Well, it's just any woods as well, you know, get outside, guys. Stamp on your phones. Be outside more.
Hopefully this will
Forget about Call of Duty.
hopefully this will lift the awareness about what goes in the woods. Even if we don't make it to the final, even if we don't win it, we will still be presenting it to our school. And
Yeah, brilliant, yeah, that's
so
good.
Hopefully that will build up, big up the woods.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really good, this.
Well, no, how else do you want us to feed into this? Do you want, because obviously we can provide you with things like the management plan, but it's a pretty dry document, you know. If you maps, management, you know, I've got a bank of photos, you know, millions of photos showing different aspects of the work that we do and with the different user groups that we work with.
It'd be really
So
useful.
I can send you those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful, the photos of the...
Maps would be good, because some of the maps as well show that if you go onto the website, just type in Edmonton Wood, and you go onto the website, and then down the side it says all the different sort of pages you can go to click on maps, and you can just print off one of the maps there. You know, because it'll show you, there's an aerial map there as well, so it's looking down to show you where the boundary of the wood is as well. So that's quite good, because it shows how close it is to the community, because basically it's in the community, isn't it? Which a lot of community woodlands aren't, you know. You look at community woodlands on the west coast, they're community woodlands, but the community is over a massive area, you know. Whereas the community of Edmonton, Nalness and Dingwall, they're quite small, close communities, you know. There you go.
What did I say there? Like the charities does a lot of stuff for people. Like that's what one of the problems was. Like everyone thought that it was just going to be for woods, and this has got to be like to show how it's helping with people. So like
well, we work with, you know, as I sort of alluded to earlier, we work with organisations such as Birchwood, Support in Mind, New Craig's Hospital. So these three organisations support people with mental health issues, and that could be young people with mental health issues, you know, or older people with mental health issues. And we work with them to get them out and about, to use the wood to support their sort of health and well-being, you know. So there's that aspect, and it doesn't necessarily, they don't all come from the community, they all come from around, but they focus in on the wood to use the wood, you know, for their sort of health and well-being. We work with the youth team here, so they're the sort of older folk. Young mums, we work with young mums. We've had young mums out, you know. Sometimes they, particularly single mums, don't get the opportunity to just have a breather and just have a rest, you know. Because being a parent myself, you know, luckily there's two of us. I know how hard it is, and working with young mums, you feel to, some folk sometimes fail to realise how difficult it can be for people to, you know, when you're working with, when you've got a wee one 24 hours a day, just to have an hour in the day just to have a breather, you know, just to have a bit of me time to recharge the batteries. So we've had single mum groups out as well. It's been a bit of I will say, it's been a bit of an issue trying to get them out of their fancy shoes and leggings and stuff to try and get them in wellies and, you know, warm trousers. But it's worked. We provide, you know, again for some folk that perhaps for whatever reason haven't got access to things like, you know, waterproof clothing or warm footwear, we do have a bank of wellies and, you know, coats and stuff as well that we can offer folk just to give, you know, so that's not a barrier for them getting out and about it. So
I think we have an advantage here because, as well as being a charity yourselves, you also help other charities, so that can go down as advantages of helping two charities or more. Because we're helping you, you can do a bit, but it also helps other charities become.
It's called cascading.
Yeah.
We were considering doing Birchwood.
Sorry?
We were considering doing Birchwood.
Okay, yeah.
So
That's
that's going to
in this
link in
one.
as well nicely. So.
Yeah. Well, Birchwood's Sporting Mind, Craig, New Craig's well NHS, but Craig Hill, New Craig's and Sporting Mind are all charity groups.
Yeah.
We're going to run out of memory in a minute.
Well, do you want to say anything else, or
Finish
do you
off.
think that'll be it? Because we've got plenty of information here.
This is about half an hour recording.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's not going to run out of memory, more like
It's quite alright.
no
We're done anyway. Yeah, so
battery.
again, if there's anything you want any further information or resources, give us a shout and I'll get them.
You think you could try and get in touch with Adrian first?
Maybe just
As well? Like,
so we could
have a talk to him about it?
Yeah, when do you
right.
want? He's pretty free.
Literally as
He
soon as
talks,
possible.
you're going to need more than half an hour on there. Oh, the other thing also, like today for instance, we had a group of Swedish, they weren't teachers, they were educationalists, I forgot about that. They came to the wood basically and had a walk around the wood, and what they were looking at, exactly what you were looking at, how the wood engages with the community, but they had a sort of educational remit. So they were asking us about, you know, how we work with like see yourselves and what different educational groups we work with and how we sort of work with the community to promote education, you know, the likes of events and that sort of thing. Yeah, so they come up from Sweden and they're over here for a week, and one of the site visits that they were making was to our site, you know, so it was quite good.
Yeah.
So,
Got a really good chance for this.
so yeah, when do you want to speak to Adrian?
Literally as soon as possible.
Well, when are you moving this afternoon? No, I'm going to phone me, sorry.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll get in touch.
Go on the website.
Yeah.
Get-
See,
Email.
go to the contacts page. I think his phone number's on there. Give him a ring now, and he'll come and you can speak to him.
Yeah, I think we'll just do that, like, once we finish this.
Yeah.
Try that.
Ding dong, hurry up.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Right, well,
That was good.
Thanks.